Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in today. My name's Jen. I'm with Allegory Gallery and JNT Creations. I have another fun little tutorial for us today. This time I'm going to show you a wire wrap tree. I don't show my trees very often, but I've got this fun little one for us planned. So without hesitation, let's get started. All right, we're going to go over our tools real quick. Need a ruler. I got inches and I got millimeters. You need like a smaller bead. I'm gonna say like anywhere from 3 to 6 millimeters, depending on how big you want it. And I always like to pick a round bead that looks earthy because this is going to be like a tree encompassing the earth. So then we just need a 10-inch piece of 16 gauge wire. If you're going to use a smaller bead, I would drop down to probably, I would say drop down to a 20 gauge wire if you're going to go with like a 10 millimeter bead. This one here is about 15. I wouldn't go much bigger than 18 or you're going to have a ginormous pendant. And then we have 10 22 gauge wires. You can do 20 as well. This was just what I happen to have in my bag with me. They are about 12 inches long. Don't know if we're going to use all of it. We're kind of just going on the fly. And we need whatever flat nose, needle nose plier you're comfortable with. And I like a bent nose plier. It helps me when I turn things. You need a flush cutter, a wire smoother if you want, a round nose, and I got another broad flat. The first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to use the larger bead so that it shows up better on camera, so we're going to insert this 16 gauge wire into the bead. And bend it up on both sides. Get up as tight as you can on that bead. And then bring one side up and bring the other side in. This is just your anchor. And then it's gonna also be your bail. The rest of the wires we're going to spread out across, leaving, let's see, we're going probably about 2 inches. Yep, that's going to be about 2 inches. You could go a little longer on some, a little shorter on others. Kind of stagger them a little bit. And now what you're going to want to do is pinch them as close to that bead as possible. Use a tool if you need to. And you're going to twist in one direction all the way up those 16 gauge wires. try to hide them as best you can. You see that cool little twisted tree trunk? Now this is where it's up to you to decide how big, how tall you want your tree. And which side you want the front and which one you want the back. Kind of open up those wires up the top of your tree so you can get a good little idea there. Okay. Now the reason why we did one side a little bit shorter than the other is because that's just going to be your loop. And the other one is going to wrap around it. So using your round nose tool, and make sure that you're going to make your loop big enough to go through string or wax cord, whatever you're going to put it on. Just make sure you make your loop big enough. Pin that around. So you see I did a 90-degree angle before I bent that. That's going to be a good height. And I'm going to give that a snip with my flush cutters. I'm going to close my loop. Spread these wires out to get them out of your way. And this longer wire that we have left, the 16 gauge, we're just going to freehand curl that into like a little circle and then twist that into a spiral. This is going to be your backdrop and your stabilizer. Doesn't have to be perfect. And when you come to the end, just give that a little twirl. And then use your flat nose pliers to kind of bring that up in there. And just tuck that away. Alright. We don't really need to worry about which direction our bail is going right now. We'll adjust that at the end. So this is what we have now. First thing I like to do is kind of secure a couple of the roots to the supports that are coming through the bead. And this is up to you which way you want to make them. You could use more than 10 wires if you want as well. The reason why we're going to wrap it around a few times is just so that we make sure that those wires stay anchored. And since they're roots, we don't want to make them perfect. They can be a little swirly. This also kind of helps to hide how straight those anchor wires are. Makes them look a bit more organic. And if you notice they're coming apart at the base, go ahead and squeeze them in just a little bit. All right. So that's pretty good anchor right there. And now we're going to curl these little roots into some swirly little willy-nilly things here. So use your round nose. And again, they are roots. They do not have to be perfect. Just kind of swirl them up towards the bead. If some of them are a little too long, then go ahead and give them a cut. And when you start getting up by the bead, kind of push it in there. And go in different directions. The only thing you need to make sure of is that you keep the rough little end against the bead so that it's not going to grab your skin or your clothes. So you can see what I'm doing here. We'll do this one real slow. I'm doing a little curl to get the spiral started. We're out of focus. There we go. And then I'm using the flat and the bent nose plier to curl that in the same direction up towards the bead. And a 20 gauge is going to be a lot more sturdy, but for those beginners, it will be a lot more difficult on your hands. So this is all just repetition. I don't like that one being on the top there, so we're going to give that a snip. Three more. And you're going to want them all towards the front too, because you're not going to see the back of the pendant unless you're going to do like a front and back pendant in case it turns on you, but it shouldn't turn. And I have them kind of cascading down one side because I think that just looks really sweet. Yeah. Just play around with it until you get them in the spots where you want them. Last one for the root system. There we go. Isn't that darling? All right, so working up with the top wires now, kind of do like a sunburst around that back support. So that you have the same amount of wires surrounding. Bring some down on the bottom. Now we're going to anchor them onto that back support. So try to work them in to that spiral and just do a couple of anchor coils. Doesn't matter if you go around 2 coils, just don't pull it so tight that you can't get in between them. You just need to do a couple, just to kind of fill in those gaps a little bit. Just give it some body. Since it's 22 gauge wire, it's very thin, so it's not gonna cover a lot. This is sewing with wire. And here's another little idea too. You could add some seed beads in there. For those of you who work with seed beads and wire, you know you can make some cute little leaves. There's all kinds of different variations to this you can do. I'm just showing you the basic. If you run into a wire that just won't go in, snip off that end. Make it go in. So you just want to make sure that you get all of them in there. A couple of coils around each, because you don't want them to unravel from your tree trunk. I believe that was our last one. This is where you have the fine opportunity to get seriously willy-nilly now. So what I like to do is add some leafy coils in there. Hopefully I'm not hitting the camera too much. Always a work in progress. All right, so we got some little vinies in there. You can also use the multi-tier bail maker, or perhaps even a piece of your 16 gauge wire. You're just gonna do a few little willy-nilly coils. Isn't that cute? I'm just going to smoosh those. Smoosh. For those of you who do work with wire, you know that you don't control that wire. It decides where it wants to go ultimately. So sometimes, try as hard as you may, it's just going to go where it wants to go. You're merely a guide. Alright, I think I'm going to do one more little swirly. Use my tool again. So I kind of kink that up just a squinch. Just to give it a little texture. And break it off. See? Nobody's perfect. But we can add that one back on. So there's an example of what not to do. Don't swirl it so much that you break it. See how easy it is just to connect that right back in there. Okay, I'm going to trim up some of these now. You can add them in if you decide that it's not going to be quite full enough for you. Just like we added those last two. Okay, and just like we did with the roots, we are going to do that little circle at the end. Go ahead and do that on a few just to save yourself some time. And then do your little curls. You can do perfect spirals. You can do them all up close. You could leave spaces in between like I am. It's entirely up to you. Till you get to that backdrop, and then just kind of smoosh them in there. And repeat that on all of them. I'm going to do a couple more on camera with y'all, and then we'll do the rest off camera to save time. And we'll meet you back. It looks like a mess now, but you're going to rearrange that until you're happy with what you got going on. It's supposed to be a fun little willy-nilly piece. Alrighty, I'm going to do the remaining ones off camera and we'll meet you back. Okay, we're down to our last little swirly. Tucking that one in. And I'm not really liking where that one's going to lay that way, so by just turning around that swirl, that completed the look. Some of them you definitely know which direction they need to go in. So now just manipulate those other ones until your tree has the shape that you want. You see how fun that is? It's so willy-nilly. And the other thing you can do is you could use an emery board and kind of file some of the areas. Do it very gently, but you could file some of them flat And then definitely I suggest patina, liver of sulfur, and then buff some of those darker spots out. Use some steel wool or some baking soda and just have some highlights, some low light, and just feel free to manipulate those roots wherever you want. Sometimes they go in too far. And this one, let's see, will look better. And I do like to hide the holes on the beads too. Let's just tuck those up in there. I kind of lost my cascade a little bit, but that's okay. There we go, that's good. Once you get the hang of it, you can whip these out much quicker. There. Isn't that adorable? And let's see, how big is that? That's probably about 3 inches. No, it's only about 2 1/4. So not too bad. And like I said, that patina, the liver of sulfur solution, you just mix a little bit, like just a couple of little drops in some really hot water. Make sure that your copper is really clear or clean if you're going to use copper, or a non-tarnished wire. It won't matter. You can't patina that, but a bare copper you can definitely patina. And just dip it in a little bit of white distilled vinegar first so that you clean all your fingerprints off of it. And make sure you rinse all of that vinegar off real good before you put it in the liver of sulfur. And then just buff away some highlights. All right, so why do we have these little beads here? Well, if you decide, you don't have to, but if you decide, you could do a little dangle in there. So I'll just show you how to do that little dangle if you want real quick. So we're going to create a little swirly eye pin. Not too much. Do a 90-degree bend. Drop one of your little beads down. See, isn't that cute? Another little 90-degree bend at the top. Complete your round. And then go ahead and add that anywhere you want on your tree. I usually pick one of the lower branches. This is where your itty bitty needle nose pliers are going to come in handy. I'm going to make that circle just a little bit smaller because I want to see less of that and more of the bead. All right, so once we get a handle on it, there we go. We're just going to go around it just a couple of times to secure it. Don't worry if you knock any of your branches out of the whack. You can always put them right back. Give that excess a little trim. And then tuck in your end. Go ahead and stick it right back in there. And let's just, for the sake of argument, say that this little wire right here is a piece of leather cord or whatever necklace you're going to incorporate it on. That'll hang from your bale that you made right there. So sweet. Such a cute little dangle. And there you have it. Cute little willy-nilly wire tree encircling the earth. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope y'all had fun. I would love to see what you have created, so please feel free to visit us at Allegory Gallery Design Challenge on Facebook and post us a picture of what you created. Please like and subscribe and hit that share button. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.